Are you listening to me?
Huh? The rest of the world doesn't exist.
Oh, Jesus, this place makes my head hurt.
Greetings, my friend.
Oh, hi there. My name is Prostetnic Vogon Jeffs, and in this video I'm...
Dang it. Oh, God, that hurt.
Oh, what did I even trip on? And where am I? What did I even trip on? And where am I? Whoa, who are you? Who are you? Oh no, you're me, and I'm you. How is this possible? Why are we stuck in the Matrix? What happened to the theater? Why does your chin look like that? Oh, weird. I guess I fell a lot harder than I thought I did. Does it look that bad? No, it's fine. It's fine. You sure? You're not just saying that to make me feel... Of course not. Why would I lie about that? You look great. Hey, why don't you have any legs? What are you oh my God, why don't I have any legs?
Bah! Get down or I'll shoot.
I'm the mayor.
X.
Oh, hi there. My name is Prostetnic Vogon Jeffs, and in this video I'm talking about the 1994 Italian art house black comedy zombie flick, Dylan Dog. Oh, no, wait, sorry, that's not right. Cemetery Man, also known as Dellamorte Dellamore. Directed by Dario Argento's former assistant, a.k.a. Suave, and starring Rupert Murdoch. No, wrong. Oh man, yeah, not Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Everett. God, can you imagine? The movie stars Rupert Everett and a bunch of people whose names I can't be bothered to try and pronounce. Like this guy, and this lady, and this girl, and this guy. Dude, their names aren't that hard to pronounce. Most of them aren't even Italian. Okay, well, before we crack on, let's get a bit of background on this one. Cemetery Man is based on a novel that was written in the early 80s by Tiziano Sclavi. It wasn't published until 1991, and in the intervening years he would go on to create Dylan Dog, one of Italy's most popular comic book series. In a wonderful full-circle chain of events, the titular character of Dylan Dog was based on Rupert Everett, and the story of Cemetery Man, or Dellamorte Dellamore, was incorporated into the comics, making this movie both an adaptation of Sclavi's original novel, but also of the Dylan Dog comics, with Everett cast as the pseudo and proto-Dylan Dog protagonist. Confused? Good. That'll help you tremendously moving forward.
Plot thickens.
What I'm really trying to say here is that this is more or less a comic book adaptation, and Italians are weird. Hey, wasn't there a Dylan Dog adaptation with Brandon Routh like over a decade ago? No, we don't talk about Dead of Night on this channel. Okay, why not? I mean, it would probably be a fun movie to roast. And didn't you just mention it at the beginning of the... Shut up. That's a fair point. See, I knew you'd say that. It's like we're sharing the same brain. Alright, Cemetery Man starts with a brief prologue. Francesco Dellamorte, which translates to Francis of Death, is a cemetery caretaker in a small Italian town. One night, the crypt keeper is visited by a zombie, who is promptly dispatched with a bullet to the head. Francesco and his retarded cemetery assistant, Nagi, immediately rebury their undead visitor, and get attacked by another zombie. Apparently, as the Cemetery Man explains, it's an epidemic of unknown origin in which some people, on the 7th night after their death, come back to life.
I call them returners. But frankly, I can't understand why they're so anxious to return.
They're zombies. I don't care what you call them, Francis. They're zombies. At a funeral, Francesco falls in love with a young widow.
Will I see her again?
When she returns to visit her late husband's grave, Francesco tries to hit on her, but inadvertently insults her instead.
How long has he been dead?
2 weeks.
Thank goodness.
She leaves in a huff, and the graveyard ghoulmeister pines for her. He heads into town to visit with Franco, one of his only friends. Franco knows about the zombies in the graveyard, but doesn't really believe it.
Any other visits last night?
A couple, yeah.
Even so, he supports his awkward friend and encourages him to notify the mayor. Francesco refuses because it would probably result in him losing his job and his house. On the way back to his car, the cemetery man is harassed by a group of men. To his excitement, Francesco's dream girl returns to the cemetery once again. He tries to apologize but gets the cold shoulder until he mentions the cemetery's ossuary.
Non, Siri.
which instantly gets her attention. Francesco gives the woman a tour, and for some f***ing reason, it turns both of them on.
You know, you've got a real nice ossuary.
Thanks.
They make out through multiple layers of fabric, God knows why, until the woman begins feeling guilty. She doesn't want to betray the memory of her late husband. Oh, and then she gets felt up by a skeleton who rips her dress as she bolts for the exit. Listen, I'm as confused by all of this as you guys. Later that night, the woman returns and some flaming floating marshmallows guide Francesco to her so that they can bang on her late husband's grave. The dead husband is no cuck, so he comes back from the dead to bite his lascivious wife. She dies in Francesco's arms, and he does that whole eyelid closing trope bullshit. Soon after, the cemetery man is questioned by the police.
Oh, jeez, scared me to death.
But the coroner insists that the woman died from a coital heart attack, which leads the police officer to rule Francesco out as a suspect.
Why not?
Well, you know what I mean. Look, don't make me say it.
Because the whole town believes, thanks to a vicious rumor, that the crypt keeper is impotent. He's also nearly illiterate. That's not a rumor, he confesses it to his dead lover as he awaits her resurrection.
I haven't read more than 2 books in my whole life.
He pretty much only reads telephone books. Okay, I see what I've done there. So telephone books were these large directories of telephone numbers that everyone used to get delivered to their home. This was back in the pre-smartphone era, back in the caveman days of landlines and fax machines. Oh, damn it. Okay, I see what I've done there. So landlines and fax machines were these— Dude, no one cares. Francesco seemingly falls asleep as his lover comes back to life. So he shoots her in the head. Francesco and Nagi head into town to meet with the mayor, for some reason. God. It's not to tell him about the zombies in the graveyard, that much we know. They all sit together in the town square, and Nagi becomes infatuated with the mayor's teenage daughter, Valentina. The simple-minded assistant gets overly excited and projectile vomits on her. And then some D-bag named Claudio shows up on a bike and picks her up.
He threw up on me, Claudio!
They ride off as Nagi flies away in a shame tantrum. Heading back to the cemetery, Francesco tries to comfort his monosyllabic assistant and reassures him that
They all end up here sooner or later.
Meanwhile, while joyriding through the Italian countryside, the mayor's daughter and her biker friends are run over by a bus. Valentina is decapitated and everyone dies. At the funeral, Claudio's other girlfriend loses her mind. And Nagi grins, anticipating the undead return of his underage crush. You know, I know that Francesco gave his assistant a half-assed condemnation in the previous scene.
What were you doing with the mayor's daughter anyway? She's only a child.
But man, this movie kinda lets this gross shit slide in a weird and uncomfortable way. I mean, maybe that's the point. I don't know. Later that night, the victims of the bus crash are resurrected. It's supposed to take 7 days, but you know what? F that. Now it just happens immediately. Francesco is attacked while taking a shower. A bunch of undead Boy Scouts storm the house and get the upper hand. Safety in numbers, as it were. Francesco manages to fight them off and save Nagi, but accidentally destroys Nagi's TV in the process. Claudio rides his bike back to the land of the living and gets waved down by his hysterical girlfriend. Not Valentina, the other one.
Help me, hold me, love me!
They ride off to get some privacy so that Claudio can eat her alive.
Move aside.
Mind your business! I shall be eaten by whoever I please!
But Francesco finds them and puts them both down. The next morning, an impatient Nagi digs up Valentina's grave. She comes back to life and Nagi removes her head from the coffin. They kiss, her disembodied head follows him back to his room. What is happening? What is happening here? That night, Nagi pieces together a skull puzzle that Francesco believes to be one of the most difficult things in the world. And this either shows us that Nagi isn't as dumb as he's letting on, or Francesco is much dumber than we've been led to believe. Maybe both. While eavesdropping on Nagi and Valentina, Francesco hears a noise in the cemetery and heads out to investigate. It turns out that his dream lover has returned from the land of the dead.
We can't. I'm alive.
They make out, and she disarms him before biting into his— oh god, I thought she was gonna bite his nipple off. Instead, she takes a chunk out of his shoulder. Luckily, Nagi is there to save the day. As he patches himself up, Francesco is overcome with remorse. He believes that he's responsible for his dead lover's death. He killed her. He thinks that she was still alive after her late husband bit her, and that if he hadn't shot her, she would never have come back as a zombie. I guess he believes this because he was just bitten and he didn't die or turn into a zombie. I don't know. It's not super clear. What is clear is that Francesco isn't completely sound of mind. While burning leaves and old phone books, he hallucinates the Grim Reaper, who encourages the cemetery man to stop killing the dead and start killing the living. He fends off another wave of the undead while having a conversation with Franco, and he questions whether or not his friend is just a figment of his imagination. He falls asleep while talking to him, or maybe while talking to himself. Who knows? But we then cut to a dreamlike sequence where the cemetery man is gunning down the gang that spread the rumor about his impotence. The police officer shows up the following morning to question him about the murders, but the investigation is interrupted by the arrival of the mayor. He wants to dig up Valentina to get some photos to help his re-election campaign.
Now that the whole town is in mourning, I want to show them that I'm grieving as well.
Francesco obliges, and as we all know, her head is missing.
What's the meaning of this?
The mayor is then shocked to hear Valentina calling out to him. He follows her voice to Nagi's room and finds her head inside the broken television set. God, I'm sure this is supposed to mean something, but for the life of me, I couldn't tell you what. Valentina and Nagi want to get married, but her father won't allow it.
Not as long, dear, as I've got a breath in my body.
All right.
So Valentina propels her head through the air and bites his neck. And alright, now if we've gotten this far into the synopsis and you're still asking questions like, but how is that possible? Then I don't think this movie is for you. Anyway, Francesco enters the room and puts a bullet through Valentina's head. The mayor also dies. Whatever. The new mayor of Buffalora shows up at the cemetery, looking to get Francesco to rescind his claim that the dead are returning. The cemetery man assumes Franco filed the complaint on his behalf. Eager to keep his house and his job, Francesco complies and signs a letter refuting the claim. As he leaves, the new mayor introduces Francesco to his assistant.
Mr. Dellamorte.
A pleasure. A real pleasure, Mr. Dellamorte.
Thank you.
She looks exactly like his dead lover, probably because it's the same actress. Duh. She returns to the cemetery later that night, caressing the caretaker and confessing her strange and instant love for him. It probably had something to do with the rumors. You know that Francesco is impotent? Well, it turns out that she can only be in love with someone who is impotent.
I can't stand the thought of them having you understand.
Because of a phobia or something. Blinded by a desperate love, Francesco goes along with it. He even visits the coroner doctor guy to make it official. He gets injected with some mysterious substance that will make him officially impotent for the next month or so. It's a pretty traumatic experience, so it really sucks when she visits him a few days later and dumps him. You see, she was raped by the mayor and kind of liked it.
What?
So she and her boss did the horizontal mambo again and fell in love. Hello, Stockholm Syndrome. The rape also cured her of her fear of schlongs.
This means I'm cured. I don't have a phobia anymore.
What the is happening here?
So there's just no way she could be romantically involved with someone who couldn't get a stiffy. This movie is real, people. This movie is real. Francesco does what any lunatic would do in this situation. He goes out cruising for whores. At a bar, he meets two students, Magda and Laura, with the latter looking very much exactly like his dead lover. Probably because it's the same actress. Duh. You did that line already. Okay. He gives the two women a ride back to their place and they invite him upstairs. He and Laura bump uglies. He's so turned on that his boner defies science and ignores the impotence injection. After banging multiple times, Francesco finds out that Magda and Laura are paying their way through school as prostitutes.
School's expensive, my friend. We don't have a scholarship, you know.
She told me she loved me.
Dejected and angry, the cemetery... Dejected? Is that the right word? Dejected and angry, the cemetery man uses a space heater to start a fire in Laura's bed and burns them alive. The police officer shows up for a third time, and Francesco thinks he's been caught. But it turns out that his friend, Franco, took the fall for the crime after killing his wife and child. In the aftermath, he tried to off himself, but failed and was taken to the hospital. The cemetery man visits his friend in the ICU. He wants to know why he took the credit for the murders, and during his interrogation of the nearly comatose Franco, Francesco is interrupted by a nun, a doctor, and a nurse, who he shoots dead with extreme indifference.
Put that out immediately!
F*** off.
Oh my God! What happened?
Killed each other. Don't you believe me?
No.
Tough.
No.
Franco finally comes to and tells the cemetery man that he has no idea who he is.
I don't know who you are.
Dun dun dun.
Go away!
Francesco leaves and runs into the police officer on his way out of the hospital. He confesses his crimes, but nobody seems to care. So he heads back to the cemetery and quits his job while talking to a statue of death.
Where do you think you're going if you haven't yet understood the difference between life and me?
He and Nagi pack their things into the car and head out of town. They leave Buffalora and travel through a mountain tunnel. As they exit the tunnel, Francesco slams on the brakes, injuring Nagi. It's a dead end.
Move this man!
The road goes nowhere. Nagi passes out from his injuries, and Francesco, thinking his friend is dead, loads his gun with 2 final bullets. Nagi regains consciousness and throws the gun away, asking Francesco to take him home in plain English.
Could you take me home? Please.
Francesco says,
No.
Zoom out, snow globe, the end. What did I just watch?
Go ahead, expect.
Alright, so I watch some movies and it's clear that there's no subtext, no deeper meaning. It just is what it is. Nothing wrong with that. Not everything has to have layers. And then there are movies where there's definitely a deeper meaning. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's open for interpretation. These flicks are fun because they're conversation starters and friendship destroyers. But then there are movies like Cemetery Man, movies that wear their subtext on their sleeve, on their convoluted, poetic, drug-addled sleeve. Hey, do one more. On their tattered, 8-armed, undead sleeve of nonsense. Yeah, that ought to do it. Cemetery Man isn't a movie you watch for logic or coherent plot progression. It's not a movie you watch for character development or traditional catharsis. It's not a standard narrative. It's not prose, it's poetry. It's irrational and emotional and virtually impossible to sit through if you're looking for a straightforward story.
Goodness gracious. What are you saying?
If you're the type to look at Picasso's Cubist art and think, man, what a joke, this guy can't paint for shit, well, you might be happier with the latest Netflix release.
No!
Now, that's not to say that this movie is God's gift to cinema. It's beautiful and funny and creepy and grotesque. It's weird in almost all of the right ways. Stylistically brilliant, but it's also fairly incoherent, oppressively and intentionally lackadaisical, and thematically dense to its own detriment. Performances are inconsistent, the editing lacks polish.
You amateur.
Amateur.
The soundtrack is equal parts phenomenal and awful, and the whole thing feels like it should have been 20 minutes shorter than it is. All that being said, if you're someone who likes to analyze themes or someone who appreciates genre deconstructions, this movie is great.
I'm serious.
The way it plays on the typical zombie flick is clever and funny. Dellamorte Dellamore translates to of death, of love, and that's precisely what this movie is about. It's about mortality and the trauma of losing a loved one. It addresses these themes in a bizarre and morbid way. It's relentlessly unconventional, but taken as a whole, it's remarkably effective, if you're willing to give it a chance. Huh, that's it? Yeah, I mean, what else did you want me to say? I like it. I don't think it's the best movie ever made, but as an artist and a horror fan, I appreciate it. But I can also see why some folks would hate it. You fence-sitting piece of shit.
Don't be mean. We don't have to be mean. Because, remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
Dellamorte Dellamore bids you farewell.